sharing her story. Natania, thank you so much for being with us. I can't imagine what you've been through since 1999, and then all the emotions that must be coming up over the last couple of days. What was your reaction, Natania, when you saw these massive raids at P. Diddy's two homes?
First and foremost, thank you for having me. It was very emotional. In short, it was extremely emotional because it was basically it marked 25 years, a quarter of a century since this occurred. And I've had to relive this over and over again, intermittently in that time. So when I saw it, it was very cathartic because I finally felt like justice would be done. Justice would be mine and belong to all of his victims.
Yeah, and you have said since really right after the shooting that it was P. Diddy who shot you. I mean, I think you even said it to the doctor that night, right?
I said it immediately. I literally watched them pull out the guns. I've had a clear point of view. I mean, for God's sake, I got shot in my nose. I was facing them directly. I watched everything occur and have described it, vehemently to all parties involved. I think in our society, we have respectability politics. There are people who want to be adjacent to power or celebrity or money, and there's a hierarchy of respectability. Because his name was more notable, he was believed rather than a victim who gave a first-hand account. By the grace of God, I survived.
Yeah, and this was also a different time. I mean, things were very, very different in 1999. I mean, did you sense right from the beginning that no one believed you?
Well, I don't think that was on my mind. I think first and foremost, I'm a mother. I'm a mother of 3. At the time, I was a mother of 2. And just surviving and getting home to my children was of utmost importance to me. Being whole and being able to mother them. That was, primary on my list. I didn't have any reason to believe that to think that someone would not believe me. But as things unfolded, it was a very short period of time where I realized that's what in fact was happening.
So, as I mentioned, Diddy has denied being the one who pulled the trigger. But this is interesting, Natania. Rodney Jones, also known as Little Rod, is now suing Diddy for sexual harassment. That's something that's been in the headlines for the last couple of days. And there's a very interesting quote from his lawsuit that relates back to you that I want to read because it sort of ties all of this together. And it says, Jones claims in the lawsuit, Mr. Combs shared that he was responsible for the shooting in the nightclub in New York City with rapper Shine. He shared that artist and Mr. Combs' girlfriend at the time, Jennifer Lopez, aka J-Lo, carried the gun into the club for him and passed him the gun after he got into an altercation with another individual. So now you have Little Rod in this new lawsuit saying that Diddy told him that he actually was responsible. I mean, what did you think when you read that?
Well, I was incensed for a number of reasons. First and foremost, for the past quarter of a century, he's vehemently denied that he was responsible, even though I knew wholeheartedly, and as so many others who were in the club that night, we all knew he was responsible. A lot of people were afraid for their safety, justifiably so. I mean, the history that has occurred in the last 25 years proves that they were justified in being afraid. But I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid because I still bear I have 9 bullet fragments remaining in my face. So when I saw that count 128, that's actually count 128 of the lawsuit. When I saw that on a podcast that was analyzing all of the counts, I knew I had to speak. I had no intention of going viral. I was just getting it out of me. I have a mantra, having my say. There was a time a few years ago where I had a talk radio show called Having My Say. And that's very important to me. I believe everyone is entitled to have their say. Far too often we don't hear people or listen. And so I just wanted to get it out of me because it was like an audible, deep breath that I needed to take. And I made the TikTok video not expecting it to go viral. Went to pick up my daughter, came back home, and she's like, and I literally told her, I'm like, well, you're probably going to see it tomorrow. I made a video on TikTok. Maybe 100 people will see it. By the time we got home, she said, Mommy, it was 70,000 people. And I could not believe it. But it was time. It was time for me to speak. I'd stayed quiet for 25 years. It was my time to speak.
Yeah, we don't know yet what's going to happen with the P. Diddy situation. Obviously, again, he hasn't been arrested. There's clearly a very big federal investigation happening now. But I'm thinking back to other cases, R. Kelly, Jeffrey Epstein. When they started to dig, all sorts of stuff came to the surface. They reopened old investigations. Would you like to see the investigation involving you getting shot at that club be reopened?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The irony is there was a grand jury. We all had to go and speak at the grand jury. J-Lo testified at the grand jury, as did many other people. It needs to be reopened because if that is in fact the case, she carried the gun in and she lied to the grand jury. It needs to be reopened. My shooting, ironically, the night I went into the club, I had a comb in my pocketbook called a rat tail comb. People in the beauty industry or people that use that type of comb would be all too familiar. It's just a comb. It can't do anything to harm anyone. And I had the very security officer who lied during the trial, Sharice, I forget her last name, but she literally took it from me and kind of pushed me like, you can't take this in. This is a weapon to let other people in with guns. If someone had combed me 24 years ago, I'd be fine. You wouldn't even know my name. But having been shot by someone that was allowed to come into the gun when I couldn't bring in a comb, I would absolutely unequivocally like the case reopened. It needs to be reopened. And the saddest part for me is, had people taken what I said more seriously and listened more intently, 24 years worth of people probably would not have had to suffer.
Yeah, and I ask you this respectfully, just because I think people at home might be wondering, and I've never been shot. I can't imagine what that's like. But, you know, in the chaos of that moment, and it's a club and there's people all around, like, how can you be sure that it was actually P. Diddy?
Because I was standing by the front door. I watched the entire thing out. I had no reason to believe that it would escalate to a shooting. It was just male machismo and bravado at first. A lot of pushing and shoving, raised voices, hands. But then I saw them reach in their waist and draw from their hip. And I instantly turned to my friends and told them, be careful, watch out. And when I turned back, I know, and I've said over and over, I've heard the voice of God said, you are about to be hit. Calm down. And as I said no, I looked straight forward ahead and I watched the muzzle flash from both of their guns and I felt the impact to my face instantly.
Wow.
There's no doubt in my mind who shot me.